Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I just sort of wanted to come on and speak to you about my hypnobirthing experience, because this is something that I practiced for my second birth, so I just thought it'd be interesting just to sort of come on and tell you what I did to prepare for it, what I thought of it and what didn't work, and just whether or not I would recommend it really. So this is going to be about my second birth with my son Aiden, who is sleeping just there, so if you hear noises or if he wakes up then you'll come in the video. So this is my second birth. The first one I hadn't really heard about hypnobirthing. It wasn't really something I was aware of or something that I really thought about doing. So since with my daughter I already had quite a natural birth, I did have morphine and gas and air with her, I already knew that I wanted to have a more natural birth. I didn't want to have the morphine this time, and I was open to gas and air at the end if I felt like I needed it, but I definitely didn't want to go down the route of having an epidural or anything like that. So the first thing that I did in preparing for my hypnobirth was I bought the book called The Hypnobirthing Book by Catherine Graves. I just bought this second hand off eBay for pretty cheap because it's quite expensive if you buy it new. So I read that whole book once, and then I actually went back and read a couple of chapters twice. I started reading this book from about 30 weeks. I did have this book quite a lot before 30 weeks, but I sort of maybe glanced through it, read little bits, but I didn't want to seriously properly start reading it until 30 weeks, just because that would be a lot more fresh in my head and I wouldn't be like forgetting stuff that I'd read. So along with the hypnobirthing book, I also used some playlists on Spotify. So I did actually end up making my own playlist, but I actually found the songs for that just from like, I'm pretty sure if you just type in like hypnobirthing playlist, there'll be like playlists that people have already made, and you can just sort of go on and pick songs that you like, or just add the whole playlist to your playlist or anything like that, and just sort of make this playlist of just like calming, peaceful music that's going to help you relax during labour. And then, so once you've read a hypnobirthing book or anything like that where you become familiar with the ideas behind hypnobirthing, a lot of it relies on your breathing. So what I would do in the run up to labour is each night I would sort of just put my headphones in and listen to my Spotify playlist and just like breathe, just practice your breathing, just practice it, and then it'd be amazing how quickly your whole body relaxes, because the more that you practice your breathing with your music, just practice everything together, the more likely that you're going to relax during labour. So I would definitely say practice your breathing with your music, just so your body and your mind gets used to relaxing, so that you will relax during labour. And another thing that I used was just some videos on YouTube. There's quite a lot of like midwives and hypnobirthing teachers and people like that who have got videos on YouTube, just sort of just go through parts that are already in the hypnobirthing book and just go through it again, discuss the breathing again. And the author Catherine Graves even has some videos on YouTube, which was really interesting to see her speak about hypnobirthing after reading her book. So that was really interesting. I would definitely recommend doing that. It's just sort of look up like professionals speaking about hypnobirthing on YouTube. So one of the things about hypnobirthing is your environment. Your environment plays a big role in how your body is going to do during labour. So how quickly you dilate, how like the more relaxed you are, has a lot to do with your environment. So one of the reasons that, so after reading the book, they sort of explain in that one of the best places for women to give birth is at home. So that is one of the reasons that we actually planned a home birth. So I just sort of thought we're not going to have to get up and go to the hospital and be surrounded with all this medical machines and doctors and all that. So I just sort of thought, right, home environment, I can just be calm, I don't have to go anywhere, I can just sort of stay in my little zone of breathing, and then the midwives come to your home. So that is what we planned. Didn't quite go to plan, but that was what we planned based on reading like the hypnobirthing book and everything like that. So in preparation for the home birth, to go with hypnobirthing, I did actually put like my breathing techniques that I was going to use on the fridge a couple of weeks before I was due, just so that like during labour, if I sort of lost control of what I was doing, I could look on the fridge, or Mark could help me sort of see how many I'm counting in for and counting out for, and then he could help me breathe through the contractions during labour. I know a lot of people would put like positive affirmations. I didn't quite go that far as to putting all of that up around the house, but I did just put my breathing. And another thing that I did put up on my fridge is a list of do's and don'ts for Mark, who's my partner, just sort of things for him not to say during labour, and things for him to do, like fill up my water, put essential, you know, relight the candle if I was going to use that and stuff like that, and things for him not to say, because I didn't want him to do anything to disturb my positive birth. Like, I was so set on just having a more peaceful, positive mindset. I didn't want anybody to disturb that, you know, like I just wanted to let me do it and just have my own birth without anybody else saying anything. So definitely good having communication with your partner and just telling them sort of what you want and what you expect out of the birth. So I had also planned to have essential oils burning. I had lavender picked out, and to have like candles dimly lit around the room, but honestly, like for my birth, everything happened way too quickly that I didn't even, you know, I wasn't in like slow labour where I could have prepared all this. It literally just went straight into like hard labour, so I didn't have time, and literally my mind just wasn't there at the moment to even set up any of this, because no, that just wasn't happening. And my birth, well, my labour started in the morning, so it wasn't really dark anyway, you know. I think a lot of people imagine a dimly lit birthing space for giving birth, but if it's during the day, you know, I could have went to the effort of getting blackout blinds but nah, I don't, you know, I made that decision. But it's during the day, it's not going to be a dark, dim birth, it will just be a daylight birth. So sort of pretty much as soon as labour started, they were really intense. So one of the first things that I did was lean over the kitchen counter, because we've got an open plan living room and kitchen, because of course standing, keeping upright, there's like the main things that you want to do when you're in labour. So I was, you know, I was very aware of keeping myself upright and not lying down, and straight away I just sort of got my headphones in, put my playlist on, and I was just breathing through them contractions. Again, I didn't really want Mark to have anything to do with me at that point. I was just breathing through, sort of in my zone with my headphones in, breathing through, managing them really well through doing that. And then once like the contractions ramped up, that was when I started my visualizations. Again, this is explained in the Hypnobirthing book, and I actually used one of the examples in the Hypnobirthing book. So the visualizations are a huge part. Like when I remember reading the book and just thinking like, you know, I'm never going to use this, but you will use it if you read, if you practice it. But yeah, I also practice these visualizations beforehand. So the visualization which I chose was sort of just breathing in and then imagining balloons. And for me, I imagined like different colours of balloons, so I can imagine all the different colours, and then I would blow the balloons away. So everything was just sort of like light and colourful in my imagination, and to me that was sort of like blowing the pain away, if that makes sense. So with each like really bad contraction, I'd breathe in. I remember like shaking my head, just blowing all these balloons away, and just sort of like watching them float up, and that helped so much. Like without that, like it's so good to have something to focus on. Without having something like a visualization to focus on, you're gonna start like freaking out, which happened with my first birth. So it is just really all about that flight or fight response. You don't want to freak out and stress out, because then your body's gonna, you know, it's gonna resist what's happening. You want to remain calm, which is what happened like so well with using hypnobirthing. Like I can't even, you know, explain enough how much the hypnobirthing helped for remaining calm and not freaking out too much every time my body had a contraction, because you want to relax your body for the contraction, you know, to do its work. So yeah, I was just sort of in my like little zone with breathing and my headphones, and I didn't want to speak to anybody. Like I didn't want to speak to Mark. The midwives came in when we phoned them. I think they could see it in my birth plan, because I put in my birth plan obviously that I wanted a hypnobirth, and you know, I didn't really want to speak to anybody, and like I knew I wouldn't want to speak to anybody. It's a very, very primal time giving birth for a woman, and I think obviously everybody does it different. Some people want to speak to everybody, have like all their friends and family, but I knew like the kind of person that I am, I just wanted to do it on my own. You know, I didn't want anybody interfering. So the midwives knew that, and they were very good. They just sort of pretty much sat at the side, monitored me when they had to, and that was it. They didn't like chat with me, or you know, they didn't do anything like that. They just sort of let me get on my own, which was super good. So yeah, the three things that I was really using was music, breathing, and visualizations. Hello, are you okay? Hiya. 1 second, I'll go get Aiden. You speaking about you. But yes, so at the end I did have some gas and air, and I was always totally open to that. But I just sort of used the gas and air like I was my breathing technique. So sort of for like the in and out, I would still use my visualizations. But it's just my breathing in the gas instead of air. So yeah, I did have gas and air at the end. It wasn't completely natural, but I was so open to having gas and air. Right, so this is the only part that I would say hypnobirthing, so I went out the window. For the labour, for the contractions, everything, hypnobirthing was amazing. I would 100% recommend it to anybody. But how on earth you are meant to breathe your baby out like I'd sort of read about, I have no idea. Because I did sort of intend, I knew it wouldn't really happen, but I just sort of like read about and, you know, look up videos about how to breathe your baby out calmly during birth. But honestly, I could not do that. It might be in the size of this boy, I don't know. But yeah, there's no way I was just going to breathe that baby out. I literally had to push with like all of my force. So yeah, that was not happening. But other than that, hypnobirthing was amazing. I am so happy that I did look into this and chose to do this for the birth of Aiden, yes. Because yeah, my first birth, like I just remember freaking out so much with like every contraction, and I was being sick. I definitely had the more like flight or fright, I don't know, I had the response where I just wasn't handling, I was freaking out. So this time, like just to compare how the labours were, like I was so much more relaxed this time. Just a shame that I didn't end up delivering at home. I did like all the labour at home, I just didn't end up delivering at home. Meconium, thank you, and a big baby. Meconium and a big baby. But other than that, like, no, it was amazing. But yes, so I definitely recommend hypnobirthing if you're watching this and you're thinking about it. And some of my tips there would be practice your breathing, practice your visualizations, practice with your music, practice as positions, you know, just practice so you're prepared for birth. And another tip is make sure everyone is aware of the birth plan that you want. Your partner, your birth partner, the midwife, just make sure everybody knows what you want so that they don't interfere and ruin what you want. And then another thing is, don't be too sad if your hypnobirth doesn't go to plan. You might be in labour and then decide you need more pain relief, and that's absolutely fine. Because I remember speaking to one mum who said she got really upset because she paid so much for hypnobirthing courses and she didn't really use it in her labour. I just thought that's so sad. You shouldn't feel bad about that. But yeah, so I just sort of wanted to share my own story with hypnobirthing. Yeah, sharing your birth. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed listening to this, and hopefully it was useful for somebody if they're considering it. But yes, thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Bye bye.